we were doing yesterday to make sure that we're all pretty squared away. I'll close out our products table here and let's just look at it. So Raj, tell me what's happening here in this persons table. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
I really didn't know that. Watch the first picture.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. How about Griffin? What's happening in the persons table?
In the persons table, we have an ID of an int. We have a first name, a last name, an email, a phone, and then we have a created at and an updated at date time, which tells us the date and the time that we created that person.
A particular record, right?
Correct. And then we have a one-to-many relationship between persons and dojos. Many being persons because there's going to be a lot of people at one dojo.
For a single dojo. Right.
And then we have a one-to-many relationship with licenses.
This was actually a one-to-one.
This is the one.
Remember, so we're kind of like assuming a person has a single driver's license, even though we know that that's not necessarily true. Right?
It's just a little.
Yeah, it's a little hard to see. These are just straight
There's
lines.
a one-to-one on there.
Right. Okay, cool. So this ID here, what's special about that? Nick.
It's auto-incrementing and it's unique for each person.
Perfect. All right. Cool. Because you were going to say something, so I didn't want it unique. Okay, yeah. So the key thing here is that this is the way that we uniquely identify that record, right? It's sort of like this record's social security number. Okay. Cool. Let's talk about these other tables a little bit. So we've got this licenses table here. Lydia, what's happening here?
So the license table, we have the ID, that's the primary key, and it's our increment. And then we also have the number of the license.
Yeah.
State. And then we also want to track when it is created and updated.
Right. Exactly. So again, what kind of relationship do we have between licenses and persons?
It's one-to-one.
One-to-one, exactly. I suppose we also could have had like expiration date in there as well. So it didn't really occur to me yesterday, but no big deal. Cool. Question?
What's the difference between date time and also timestamp?
I want to say they're pretty much the same. I have to look this up from time to time. I think that timestamps may be limited in the date range, whereas date time is a little more expansive. So if you look up timestamp versus date time is used for values for both date and time parts. It's used for that doesn't seem like they're very different.
Like
You're
exact
looking at
same
that,
thing,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. I'll try to make a mental note to see if I can dig up any extra information on that. Yeah. Good question. All right. And let's go to the next table here.
It might just be formatting when you make the query, like the way it's formatted.
Could be. Yeah. Yeah. So let me see what I can find on that, and then I'll post it for you guys on Mattermost. Cool.
What's the difference between solve one and
Yeah, this question came up yesterday too. Lydia was wondering, so in one case we were doing these dotted lines, which means that it's a non-identifying relationship. If it's an identifying relationship, which would be the solid line, it would mean that for a particular table, part of the primary key for that table would be taken from some other table as well. So it would sort of rely on its identity from some other table, as opposed to just having its own unique primary key.
So then what do persons have products? So then why is that a dotted line? Because it's relying on the IDs from persons and products.
Yeah, you know what? In this case, I should have added an ID for this so that we just have a primary key. However,
You can set the data type to
oh, right. That'd be a good idea. Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to be this way, though. You can also have a primary key that's what's called a composite key, where it consists of both this and this. In which case, I guess it would be kind of like an identifying relationship, right? Yeah. But in our case, we're just creating a unique identity ID for that particular record. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's move on to this table here. We've got Dojo's table. Diana, what's that all about?
She can't see that. Could you zoom in
Really?
on Dojo's?
Actually, there's no way I can in this program for some strange reason.
On the left side, there's the map of it underneath his magnifying glass.
Where are we? Oh, way up in here?
No. Down.
Down.
Right.
Oh, my zoom level. Jeez. Okay.
Learn something new.
I know, yeah. Thank you for the help there. It was so small in the tools that I couldn't see it. All right, so now you can see that, okay, right? Okay, cool. So what's happening in our Dojo's table? Is that a name of a person, though? It's a name of a dojo. Yeah, exactly. This is where we're housing all of our dojos, right? It's not a one-to-one, though, right? Because a dojo can have how many persons? Many, right? So what kind of relationship is that? A one-to-many. Good. Perfect. All right. Let's keep moving here. Whoops. All right, then we've got this products table that's hemorrhaging. I don't know. Seems like my zoom level has caused the program to collapse on me. Drew, what's happening in the products table?
All right, so we have the name of the product and the price of the product. And I believe float allows you to do the decimal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it has a relationship with the persons.
Okay.
And it's a one to many, because one person can have many products. But
Not directly, though,
Oh,
right?
right,
We don't have a
exactly.
direct connection to persons.
okay, so it doesn't have products. That middle box just
So would that
brings.
be that's menu to menu, right?
So yeah,
Many,
it's
right.
ultimately a many-to-many between products and persons. But what we have here is you can see that we've got a one-to-many between products and persons has products, right? And then we also have another one-to-many, which is between persons and persons has products.
So persons has products would be either retire orders.
Yeah, if it was orders, I think we were just saying something like a person was interested in a product, something like that. Yeah, but what this is we call this a middle table. So it sits between those two tables, and it allows us to create that many-to-many, right? Okay, cool. Any other questions on our diagram before we throw it away and do a new diagram? No? All right, so let's toss this guy. Yeah, so sad, right? Okay, don't save. That's all right. Let's create a new one here. And today we're going to make a diagram that is for banks and customers. Okay, you guys will be the customers, though. All right, so let's create a banks table. What shall we have in here? Probably an ID. Yeah, that's a good call. Let's make that auto incrementing. Name of the bank. I like that.
We can store from one of these settings we went off yesterday. We would have to fix the problem like the amount of relationship
Oh, different branches. Yeah. So let's kind of simplify. Let's assume that the banks we're going to put in here only have one address.
Okay.
So like
So
there
then
is
we can-
only one Wells Fargo.
Okay, so now we can put
Okay. Cool.
or city, city.
Yeah, sure. We could break it out a little bit. So if I, oops. Okay, normalization. Cool. So we'll say city, and then my state. I'm not going to leave it varchar. What should I make that? So I can just make that char 2. Okay. I guess we'll do a zip code, right? And we'll just say that a zip code is always going to be 5 characters. Obviously, that's not true. It could be, I guess, either 9 or 10, depending on if you're trying to store dashes in your database. All right. And then we'll have our created at, date time, updated at, oops, date time. Excellent. All right, so now we're also going to create some customers, as I said. So let's create that table. Actually, whoops, let me use my little default here so I don't have to do the ID and timestamps. Bring this guy over here. We'll call this customers. Cool. So the fields that we want to add are probably going to be the same as we added to our, our persons table yesterday. We'll do first name, last name, email. Get out of there. Does anyone find this interface to be a little bit cumbersome? Hey, I was trying to be nice. You just laid into it.
It sounded like you were storing that in there, so you're like,
Yeah.
you just remind everyone, I'm going to give it to
Cole was just like ready to go with that.
Bam.
He just cracked his whip. Nice.
Email
Assignments
silence
yesterday.
not have time for it.
Not because like the address and just right one, but
Yeah.
stuck with it.
I hear that. Yeah, we could do like address and password and stuff like that, but let's keep it a little bit tight just because we don't want to. We're going to be inserting things. That means we're going to have to insert all of those things for every record, right? So it could be kind of a pain in the butt. All right, Nick, question.
When you are doing the databases though, and you have like multiple tables
Mhm.
that are like dealing with addresses, like here,
Yeah.
what do you break addresses into its own table?
You certainly could, yeah, especially in the case where, let's say, a person could have multiple addresses.
Okay.
Then you would really want to have those in their own table, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's create a relationship here, and we're going to make some assumptions that, again, are not exactly as they are in the real world. But let's say a person can only bank with one bank, all right? How does it go vice versa? So a bank can have not one customer, right? A bank can have many customers, but a customer can have only one bank. So it's really just a one-to-many. So we have one bank to many customers, right? Okay, cool. So let's line that up. So I'm going to create my little 1:n, and then I'm going to click on the customers first because that is the many table, right? Okay, and then it creates that little bank's ID in there for me. I'll just change that to bank ID because it is singular. They can only be associated with one bank. All right, very good. So now what we want to do is we want to what's called forward engineer this diagram and create an actual database so that we can do some real manipulation here. So if you go up to the database menu item here and just pull down to forward engineer, it'll give you some options here as far as what connection you want to use. So probably when you guys set up your MySQL Workbench, you set up a connection as well, right? No, you didn't? Have you installed MySQL already?
It's when you do the next part, the SQL Queries reading, it tells you the like, testing connection.
And that's when you'll set it up. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
The first part of the stack or group is just doing the diagrams. And
Got it. Then you install MySQL. Okay. All right, that's cool. So here, this is the connection that we're going to use, and this will probably be the same for you guys as well. You'll have the local instance that's on port 3306. Okay, and then you'll just specify whatever your username was and then password as well when you're creating the connection. So we're going to stick with that. We'll click continue. There are a whole lot of options that you guys can check and uncheck here, but we're basically just going to stick with the defaults. We don't need to make any alterations here. Continue. Okay. Now it's going to ask me for my password to the database. I'll drop that in there, and I'll save this too so it doesn't keep asking me for that. All right. Finally, we'll get to our actual MySQL script. So if we were not using this GUI, right, the graphical user interface, we would have to type out all this stuff by hand. So this is what MySQL Workbench is doing for us, right? It's not too bad. Yeah. Yeah, and that's got to be the quote of the day, right? That was epic. That was hilarious. All right, so the code looks pretty good, right? We're creating these two tables, and then you guys can see we've got a foreign key right in here. Okay, that's the bank ID, right? So we're connecting each customer to one bank. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Okay, it finished successfully. Now, I actually forgot to rename my database over here before I forwarded and engineered it. So what's it going to be called now? MyDB. Oh well. My mistake. We can always like drop these databases pretty easily. So if I go back to my home screen here and I go here, let me just hit my connection, continue anyway. So if I wanted to get rid of MyDB right here, I should be able to just right click on it and say drop schema, because I don't want it to have the MyDB name. So let's just drop now. Okay, cool. You can see that it ran that query for us, so that's nice. So let's go back to the ERD here, and let's just change the name of this. We'll call it banks underscore customers. All right, let's do this one more time. Forward engineer. Continue, continue, continue. Cool. So let's go back to our local instance here. This is where we're going to be running our queries, and I don't see banks and customers in here, so I just need to refresh this little list. Again, you guys can probably hardly see those arrows. They're very small. Okay. So if I want to browse around in this data, in this schema, I can open it up and I can look at what tables are in there. So you see we've got our banks table, right? If I double click on that, it'll just put banks inside my query there. Not very helpful. All right. So let's start inserting some stuff into our database, right? How about we insert some banks first? Because our customers are going to be linked up with banks. All right. Anyone know how we insert into our banks table? Nope. Nobody done the inserting yet? Okay, so here's the syntax. We're going to say insert into banks. Okay, and then inside parentheses, I'm going to specify all the fields that we're trying to insert. So if I clicked on our columns here, let's just see what we have. We've got ID, name, address, city, state, zip. Do I need to do the ID? No. That's going to be handled automatically for me, which is pretty nice. So let's say we're going to insert a name, an address, city, state, zip. And then we have to say, what are the values for those different fields that we're going to provide here? So I'm going to say values. And then in parentheses, let's do some banks. So what's the first bank you guys want to put in there? Chase. All right. You got it? Chase's address, let's just make something up, right? 1234 Olive Ave.
There's one on Olive.
Yeah, there is. It's less than a block away, right? Super close. Okay, and then so the city would be Burbank, state California, zip should be 91502. Okay, what are the other things that we want to drop in there? Created at and updated at, right? So let's do created at, updated at. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't need a comma before we put the word values in. Yeah. Okay. And then for these guys, I don't want to pass in like a hard-coded value, right? I actually want to make use of some functionality that MySQL gives us. Gives us this function that we can invoke called now. How do I know that that's a function? Just if I'm looking at it and I haven't seen this before. Yeah, the parentheses, right? It looks like we're invoking something. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the updated at. So we'll do now and now. Okay, and then we have a couple ways that we can execute these queries. We have this one that has a cursor on top of it. And then this one that does not, the one that does not have a cursor on it, will execute all the queries that you have right here on this screen. Okay? So we'll probably use the one with the cursor because we only want to execute that single one, right? So I'll just click that. Uh-oh. No database selected. Okay. Whoa. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, so let's first select a database. So does anybody know how we do that? Use banks customers. Right? Boom. We ran that query. You can see down here. It was successful. We got the little green. Now I want to run this to actually insert this. Okay, and that was successful as well. So if I come over here, I can now take a look and see what's inside my banks table. All right. So to read from our table, we're going to use a select query. So I'm going to say select star. Can anyone guess what star means? All. So that means that we're going to select all the fields from this bank table. From banks. Okay. Now let's run that. And you can see down there we do indeed have Chase inside of our banks table. So that's cool. What other banks would we like to add here?
Is it necessary? Is it required?
You could probably get away with not having it. Let me double check if it gives me like a, ooh, it does give me a syntax problem. Okay. Yeah, so include your semicolons.
So when you run it in a terminal, like in SQL terminal,
True.
you don't put the semicolon.
Yeah, true. So we could be running this, as Nick was saying, directly in sort of a SQL shell, in which case we would have to have those semicolons for sure. All right. Yeah, do you want to see that? You fired up about MySQL in the shell. No, so once you get MySQL installed, you could just run it. So I could say MySQL, oops, -u, which means what user am I going to run it with? I'm going to run it with root. And then -p means I want to insert or use my password. Yeah, I sure did. Sorry about that. MSQL. Okay. All right, so now I've actually installed MariaDB, which is like it's an alternative to MySQL, but technically pretty much works the same way. So if I wanted to select our database, I would say use banks _ customers, and let's try it without a semicolon to see what happens. Hey, it didn't seem to have a problem with it. Guess you can get away with it sometimes. All right, but we can still run that same select query that we were running in Workbench. I can just say select star from banks, like that, and then we've got the same information, right? Cool. All right, so let's go back to Workbench here. Let's insert some new banks. What other banks do you guys use? Wells Fargo, that's a good one. What? How's that possible? They're gone.
I know, I'm saying I've used it.
Oh, in the past. Yeah, true. Okay. I'll probably just stick with the same address here, just because being kind of lazy here. Bank of America. Good. All right. What did I? Oh, I did something wrong. There we go. All right, so let's execute that. Drop in Bank of America. How about Citibank? Does anybody bank with
That's a
Citibank?
question. So when we're like adding stuff, we could just keep that same like template. Like once we do it one time, we can just like delete like Chase and run it.
Sure. Yeah, you could just replace these things up here and
I thought
rerun
like
the
maybe
query.
like write it every time. Like,
Yeah, that would suck, right? Yeah.
Just a random question. So I know we're going to have assignments regarding these things. If I happen to want to be doing this through Terminal, or how would I determine the assignment? Would I be able to just like
If I remember correctly, the assignments will ask you to turn in like a text file of the commands that you ran. So I mean, yeah, you could do that either way.
I'm pretty sure like you turn the MySQL file and it's technically just a text file.
Yeah. So should be good. All right, so let's do. Does anybody bank with Citibank? Anyone here? Yes, you do. Okay, cool.
I got it to the Citibank.
Let's do that. Citibank. Oops. All right, so let's run that. I'll come down here and run this. We'll see what we got in there so far. So we've got these 4 banks: Chase, Wells, B of A, Citibank. Anything else that I'm missing in here that you guys want? Nobody banks with any like credit unions or anything like that? What?
No, there's this one guy who just like on YouTube always talks about like scammers and how they try to get your money. It's like, look, like send me a check to credit union and give me a gift card.
Send me a money order. A Western.
It's Western Union.
Yeah, Western Union, right? Okay. All right. So if we've covered all the banks, that's fine. We can get into the customers part, right? Yeah, I know. It kind of seems that way, right? It's like same thing with cellular providers, you know.
That's the main point here.
All right. So let's insert some customers here. So what's the syntax for that? Insert into, and we'll call this, we called it the customers table, right? Okay, and then the fields, let's just take a look at what fields we have here. Columns, I should say. So we don't need to worry about ID. We got first name, last name, email. Okay, and then also bank ID and created at, updated at, right? Okay, so we'll say the columns here. So let's say first name, last name, email. What else? Bank ID we're going to need. Created at, updated at. Okay, and then I have to say values again. All right, so let's put our first customer in here. Drew, you're up. So yeah, give me all your info here. You're signing up. Yeah, exactly. Everything I can get a hold of.
What's your favorite hobby?
All right, so I've got your email. What is your bank, Drew? Chase. All right, so what's his bank ID going to be? Hopefully you guys can see down there as 1. All right, what am I going to put in for created at, updated at? Now, right? We're going to call that function each time.
Just to show the updated version, can you implement this and then change something on this?
We will, yeah, we'll do an update query for sure. Yeah, good call. All right, so let's insert Drew here. Okay, that worked. Let's go around the room here. Cole, your bank. All right. But that's the thing. We started out by making that assumption, right? So a person can only bank with one bank. Now, obviously, that's not true. Yeah, we're just kind of simplifying things a little bit. All right, Dante. Okay. Wow. Chase is cleaning up in here. All right. Let's stick true to it. If you bank with Chase, we'll keep it. Somebody else banks somewhere else.
Probably not. Yeah.
Where's your dinner?
Where's your lunch? Yeah.
What? Lydia? Nick? Ah, shit. Chase, Don? Wally?
Wells Fargo. All right, yeah, we got some Wells in here. All right, so Dante's in. Diana, you said was Chase as well. Oh, all right. Well,
Nick Chase. What's
yeah.
the primary one?
What? You can't have multiple primaries.
What's the bank you use the most?
Where's your
Or which one has the largest balance? See, I want your credit card has the largest balance.
No, what's from a bank?
All right, let's just do B of A then, whatever, right?
No, don't put it twice.
It's offshore. You've never heard that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's some
Create a thing called indecisive.
indecisive. Yeah, exactly. Unknown. Bank is unknown. All right, so B of A had an ID of 3. All right. All right, Raj. I don't. Seems like a good policy. Everything's everywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Whichever one works.
Yeah.
Can you set this 4-way?
Try all of these.
It's like a coffee.
Yeah. All right, Raj, what's your bank of choice? B of A, number 3. All right, so we're good with that. Cool. We've got Raj in there. Who's next? Let's do one more. Rudy. Tovar. Okay. RT.com. Your bank, Rudy? B of A. All right, number 3. Cool. Let's run that guy. Cool. All right, so now let's take a quick peek at our customers. Customers. Run that. All right, we've got 6 customers. That's nice. Representing only 2 of the banks, right? So we haven't actually touched on all of them. So maybe I'll just drop myself in the mix so that we have one more. Was Wells Fargo ID 2? It was, right? I'm pretty sure.
Let's find out.
America was 3. So yes, Wells Fargo was 2.
Set it to 3.
Oh yeah, same like this.
All right, so let me. I'll just write another little select query here from banks. Let's run that. Make sure we got our. Yeah, Wells Fargo's number 2, ID of 2. Okay, cool. So let's do 2 there. Go ahead and run that, and then we can rerun our select from customers. So now we see we've got banks 1, 2, and 3, right? I know there was somebody who did city, but we won't worry
You
about that.
said it yourself twice because you thought it was 3.
What? Oh yeah, I must have accidentally run that.
I think you've been hitting like
this sheet on like one of them. Can you do an update and still show?
Yeah, in fact, we were going to do both update and delete. So let's go ahead and, this is a great opportunity to show delete since we have this extra record, right? Okay. So if I want to take something out of here, I'm going to write a delete query. We'll say delete from customers. And then I'm going to want to have some kind of a where clause here, right? So we'll say where ID equals 7. Because 7 was the incorrect one where I aligned myself with, what was third? B of A, right? Yeah. Yeah, not a huge fan of B of A. All right. There we go. All right, and then let's run this query again. Why did it delete
Because
me?
he executed on one point and did the top third line.
Oh, Jesus. I deleted someone else I didn't want to delete either, huh?
Yeah, I didn't actually see that.
Oh
So
my
that one
gosh.
didn't execute.
All right. Yeah, you're right. All right, so let's delete from banks where ID equals 5, right? Take out that extra Citibank. And then let's just take a quick peek at our customers. Okay, now the customers looks okay, though. I did get rid of the extra version of myself. All right, cool. So that's how we write delete queries, right? We just want to say delete from the name of the table that we're deleting from, and then you're going to have your where clause to say, what the condition is. Okay. Any questions about that? About deleting? No? Okay. So let's say that we want to update somebody. Let's say I want to update Diana because I know she has all these different banks, so let's pick something else for her, right? Yeah, let's choose City because that way City will have a customer. We don't want City to be lonely. All right, so the way that we write an update query is we say update, the name of the table, so again, customers, and we're going to say set certain fields a certain way. So I can say set bank ID equal to 4, and then I'm also going to have my where clause, right? So I want to say where ID equals, Diana's ID is 4.
Does the order matter?
In terms of the update and then the set and then the where?
Really just the second word, because I assume that update has to be first. But
We could try it the other way. I think it does, but let's experiment. Sometimes it's good to just kind of find out for yourself if something works. So if I swap this real quick, you can already tell it's not going to, right? Because it's giving me that syntax error. So the where clause is going to need to be at the end. All right. Okay, cool. Let's run this guy. And then if we reselect from customers, we'll see Diana's bank has been changed. The bank ID has been changed to 4. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do the updated app, didn't I?
yeah.
Right? All right, so let's tweak that real quick.
Change it to the bank ID.
Okay, yeah. Let's say bank ID is 2. And then the other thing that we want to set is the updated at is going to be equal to invoking this now function, right?
So you can put as many. So if you're updating someone's, so it's the set, you put as many updates as you want.
As many different fields as you want to update.
You don't
Yeah.
you don't need to put a semicolon or anything because the bank ID is an exact reference. Oh, you have
Yeah.
a comma after it too.
Yeah, there's just a comma separating the different
If you put
field.
multiple, it's just a comma.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So let's do this. Run that guy. Run this one more time. Whoops. I did? Oh, I hope you're wrong. God dang, you're right. All right, delete from banks where ID is 6. We proved your point.
We can
Yeah.
go to quote of the day board.
There should be something like that. That's a good idea.
My sequel, your shit.
All right. So Diana has been updated, and we can see that her updated at has in fact changed. Right, it's now 11:07. So that's in line with what
So
we
if
ran the
you're
query.
updating one of her bank, but you don't set the
The
updated
updated
as
at?
now, you don't put that in.
Yeah, shouldn't happen automatically, although let's just prove that to ourselves. It's always good to make sure. So let's just take this part out, run it one more time. Okay, and then we'll run our select from customers, right? Okay, so Diana's updated ad is still at 11:07.
Okay.
So yeah, didn't change. Yeah, so make sure you include those. All right. So far we've deleted, we've created, we've read, which is just our select query. What if I only want to select certain fields? How can I do that? So we would, yeah, get rid of the star, and we could say something like select first name, last name, email. So let's say those are the only fields that I'm interested in. Do it that way, and there we go. We've got our first name, last name, and email. All right, cool.
How would you do something like you want to find all the people that have like their first name starting with a D or all the people at the start or go with one name?
Yeah, so we'll get to that. Actually, we were going to do, everyone who banks at a specific bank or whatever. But if you want to do something like find people who have a name with a certain pattern or whatever, let's try that. So let's come down here and we'll say, by the way, your keywords don't have to be in capitals. Those can be lower as well. So let's say I just want to select first name, last name, email from customers, and we'll say where first name like, and then in here I can use these little percent signs to say, or what kind of pattern did you want to select from this? Okay. So let's do that. So let's just put %d %. And what this should be saying is that we'll select anyone who has a D anywhere in their name, right? Because I've got a percent sign on the left, which can represent sort of any string of characters. Percent sign on the right could be the same thing. So let's see what we find with that. Okay, so there we go. We've got Drew, Dante, Diana, and Rudy. They all have D's in their first name. Yes, Dante. Has the first letter as a D, exactly. So let's run that. There we go. Yeah, cool. All right, so next let's find all the customers that say bank with, which one? Chase, that was number 1, right? Okay, so let's come down here. I'm just going to comment out some of this stuff so that I don't mess myself up anymore. Yeah, I don't actually accidentally run everything. Okay, so let's say select all from customers where bank ID equals 1. Okay, we'll run that guy. And now we've got Drew, Cole, and Dante, right? They all have the bank ID of 1. But what if I wanted to show some information about their banks as well? Right? I didn't want to just show their information. I also want to see the bank's information in that, on that same row. How could I go about doing that? Does anybody know? Join. Yes. Yeah, so in addition to having all of their regular fields, I'll also be able to have their, the name of the bank, the address of the bank, and all that.
I was thinking like you meant like have the selecting customers where they equals 1 and display whatever you need to display the information as well, all in one.
Okay, right, like in the actual code. So let's tweak this a little bit. As Nick mentioned, what we're going to do is we're going to join 2 tables together. Okay, so I'm not only going to display customers, I'm also going to display their bank information at the same time. So what we'll do is I'll break this into multiple lines, and I'm going to say join. The table that I want to join is called banks, right? And then on the next line, I need to specify what is the joining condition. Where am I going to join those on? So I'm going to say on customers.bankID equals banks.id. Okay? And here we're still restricting it to I only want to see Chase, right? We're still saying bank ID equals 1. So let's see what that looks like. And you can see now we have all of this additional information over here. We've got name, address, city, state, zip, created at, updated at. Little confusing that we've got created at and updated at twice, right? Okay. So we can get a little bit more specific, and we can also tweak the naming a little bit. So rather than just select star, I could say, what if I only wanted the first name, the last name, and the bank name? So the way that we could do that is we would have to say customers.first name, customers.last name, and then I want banks.name. So let's try that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It's giving me exactly what I want, right? What if I wanted to concatenate the first name and the last name, so it was basically just a full name? Does anyone know how I can do that? We can use concat, yeah. So we have another one of these built-in SQL functions that we can run. So I can say concat these two guys. Okay, and let's run that. Okay, I don't find this, whoops, I need to add in a space there, right? So let's do comma, empty space, and then run that one more time. But what I wanted to say is that here, this column name is not very friendly to me, right? What if I want to rename that? I can alias it down in here, so I can say as full name. So that's pretty nice. So I'm getting everyone's full name plus their bank. Okay. So that's a join. It is also implicitly an inner join. Okay, so there are different types of joins that you guys can do. We'll go over one more type of join. I've got my pen here. I've got actually a good pen. I just need to use something here real quick. So to visualize these tables being joined together, we're just going to do like a quick Venn diagram. So I'm going to have this over here being my customers. And then this will be our banks. Okay? So the joining that we were doing so far is simply joining where these two guys intersect. That's the inner join. Okay? So I'm only selecting records where I have customers and banks lined up. So let's change our join query slightly so this actually makes a little more sense. So if I remove my where clause here, let's see what happens. I do indeed, an extra semicolon. There have been stories about semicolons bringing down like entire applications, so gotta be careful about these things. Yeah. All right. So notice here when we look at the records that we selected, do I have any records with Citibank in them? No, because we didn't have any customers in our table that banked with Citibank. Okay. If I wanted my query to look a little bit different in that, let's say I want my query to select all the banks and get any customers that are associated with those banks, then I could do what's called a left join. Okay. So let's see how that might look. So I'll just comment this out. and we'll say select star from banks, and then I'm going to say left join customers. You guys remember what the on clause was there? Yeah, so what the condition is that I want them to be joined, so it would be customers.id, I'm sorry, bank ID equals banks.id.
What's the command
Oh, I just hold down command and then hit the /. Yeah, and it's the same thing in VS Code too.
Okay.
For the
you kept
comments, yeah.
saying,
Right. Yeah, exactly the same. So here, as you can see, we've got all these records that have my banks and then the people that bank with them. But look at this one down here. I've got my Citibank, and its values for these fields are null. Why is that? There's nobody that banks with Citibank, right? So that's what a left join is all about. It's, do I want to take all of my banks and show those in my query? Right. Yeah, exactly. Versus this, when we did the regular join, which is implicitly an inner join, we're only showing them where they want it. Okay? I can see everyone's super tired. I'm sorry this went so long. Any questions about joins, though? Nope. All right. Let me stop this.